We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello, and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 1 of 12. This is a 2019 maxi-series from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Kevin Nolan, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings. Cover was by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. It's an okay cover, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the story. It's mostly just a pinup. It's a really cool looking pinup, but doesn't tell you anything about the story. But I do like it, so I guess that's the trade-off. Batman's out doing some general crime fighting, taking some time to stop some muggers, and being generally just local neighborhood vigilante crime fighter. He decides to pick up a 911 call that was being ignored because the cops are overwhelmed and understaffed. It's only a welfare check, so he goes out to see what's going on, and it turns into something much, much darker, and it looks like he may be onto something really weird. It's got some really cool scenes where he scans the room and then creates a hologram of the room back at the Batcave, and it's got a really weird twist ending. So there's some really cool stuff in here, some interesting things with Alfred and his perspective on what's going on. This looks like it's got a lot of potential to be an interesting storyline. I don't know how they're going to get 12 issues out of this. This seems more like a 4 or 6 part mini-series. The guy at my comic shop kind of came up with this theory, and I completely agree with him, that Warren Ellis had this idea floating around in a notebook somewhere and just used it as a template for a Batman story. But it's got potential to be a really cool detective story, and I like those. This the main Batman book should have been written for the past decade instead of whatever Tom King's weird therapy journals are. So I would definitely recommend this book. I thought it was fun. The price point is just regular cover price for a regular comic. They didn't inflate it. Paper quality is really good. All in all, I thought it was a solid book. So I'm definitely going to recommend this if you're looking for some non-Tom King Batman fare. It's worth a read. I thought the art was solid. There were a few things I didn't like about it, but there always are. But it was still good, and the story's good. It looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. Hopefully they can make the whole series good without just padding it for the trade paperback. I still think it probably could have been compressed down to 6 issues because there's only so much detectiving you can do. But we'll see where it goes. In the meantime, this is a definite recommend, but that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello, and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 2 of 12. This is a 2019 miniseries from DC Comics. It's written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. Associate editor was Andrew Marino, editor Marie Javins. The cover is actually good. I think the posing's good. It actually has dynamic look to it, and that scene does appear right away in the story. After kind of figuring out what was going on with that murder last issue, Batman uncovers this crazy guy, and there's this knockdown, drag-out fight for a large section of the book. It's actually pretty well done, and Batman's getting kind of banged up a little bit there by this loon. And the cops kind of want to draw down on Batman when he drops off this guy at the police station, but thankfully they don't give him a hard time, and Gordon does mention that later. But we learn this guy is known as the Eater of Faces, and that's pretty messed up. But not much else is known, and we're left with a little bit of a cliffhanger. It looks like something more involved is going on, and this character might be involved in it. So there's some really good plot set up. I thought it was a little convoluted at times with the way the plot was structured, but overall, it was a pretty decent story, and the fight scene was pretty good. It was probably a little stretched out, but I had fun reading it, so I didn't feel too cheated for my money, and Warren Ellis writes Batman way better than Tom King does. Thankfully, Tom King is now off the Batman books. He's on some god-awful Bat and Cat mini-series that I'm sure will be just as crazy and weirdo. But this is a nice change of pace where we actually get to read a good Batman book. So if you're looking for something a little more detective-oriented, this is probably going to be up your alley. Although this issue is more action-themed than the last issue was. I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm looking forward to issue 3, and I can't wait to read that because it's nice to see a good Batman book. But I enjoyed it. I thought the art was solid. Hitch is a pretty decent artist, and I was really enjoying his style in this one. So I'm going to recommend it, but of course that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave issue 3. This is a 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics. Written by Warren Ellis, pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Kevin Nolan, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. I like the cover because this actually kind of happens in the issue, and it creates a sense of peril for Batman, so it really does make you want to buy it. So the case that Gordon gave Batman leads to a corrupt former DA who was apparently killed. Now, something is really off about it. It's a very high-profile case, and Gordon can't trust the corrupt cops on his payroll, so the Batman takes up the case and goes to this McMansion, which he says you can't buy taste. Which is true. So Alfred helps out quite a bit by doing some of the detective work behind the scenes, and Batman runs into somebody in the building who gets the jump on him and knocks him around quite a bit. Batman gets his butt handed to him pretty quick, but he does manage to sneak off with a piece of evidence that he bags in a Faraday bag, and it's a lexicon, which is a LexCorp home voice assistant. Bruce mentions that he tried to build one too, but it got outcompeted, and Alfred makes a great joke. He said, "You wanted to put computers that watch and listen into people's homes?" And there's a great panel with Bruce just kind of looking the other way. But they managed to get some information off of there, and we start to kind of figure out what's going on. It's a real interesting thing. The way he does this, he kind of reimagines the scenario and plays out what he saw from the room before the guy attacked him. It's really interesting issue. The way things play out and the way he obviously relies heavily on computer research, and they go into that a little bit about how that is actually a large part of what he does is sitting at a keyboard and tracking information down, because the internet makes things better. And Alfred is a big help in that regard. He does quite a bit of legwork for Bruce normally, but he also manages to use some of his old Intel experience in this issue, which is really cool, because Alfred's a really underutilized character quite often. He's actually a very valuable asset for Batman. So we really get to see that here, and it's a really interesting issue. So I thought the story was solid, I thought the art was solid, and the cover's really good. All around a very good issue. This is a good standalone issue too. You don't really need to have read the first two issues. I'm not real clear on where the issue's going, but it's got me compelled to seek out the next issue, so I'm really looking forward to that. This is definitely how Batman should be written, as opposed to whatever that mess Tom King was doing. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The art is good. Like I said, the story was great. I'm looking forward to reading next issue. Hopefully Warren Ellis can write some more Bruce Wayne stories. Unfortunately, with the 5G thing coming up, probably won't be buying a lot of DC, but if they put out stuff like this with Bruce Wayne, I will definitely pick it up. So this is a high recommendation, but that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 4 of the 12-issue maxi-series. Written by Warren Ellis, pencils and inks by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. The cover's pretty good, but your eye's drawn to Batman's foot, and I don't really care about what kind of boots he wears. It really kind of detracts from the image itself, so it's a mixed bag. It's well done. I just find myself staring at his foot. I find that weird. Associate editor was Andrew Marino, editor Marie Javins. We get a long establishing sequence of Batman going out on the road. Now he's tracked down the supplier of this medication, and this guy has 3 thugs, one of whom beat the crap out of Batman last issue. And Batman gets the drop on him this time, and there is a really, really long and awesome fight sequence. The fight actually takes up most of the issue. issue. So if you're looking for an action issue, this is it. There's some story here, probably not a good jumping on point. Actually, I would say it's an incredibly poor jumping on point, but it really does kind of further the plot, and it's got this really awesome fight scene that looks like a movie sequence. And most of the issue is dedicated to just that scene. But it does work, because if you've been reading the series up to this point, it makes sense that there would be an action sequence at this point in the story. It's a little bit stretched out, probably for the trade paperback, and I get that, but I didn't feel cheated because I really like Hitch's work, and Warren Ellis did a great job with the story so far. It's really interesting and compelling, especially how it ends. It ends on a pretty crazy note. Not the final page itself, but like the end of the fight. The sequence afterward where he's talking to Alfred, it's got a little 80s feel to it, like a 1980s Magnum PI episode, but it does work for the story and Ellis's writing style. But the fight scene ends in a crazy way that was actually pretty impressive. I'm really enjoying this series. It's got Batman with some testosterone, and actually a lot of action has happened in these books. The first issue was a bit of an outlier because it's not as much of an action issue, but this one is really, really action-packed, and last issue was kind of like that too, so I'm really liking that aspect, and I think overall it's going to be a pretty good series. They're probably stretching it out a little bit, but I don't really mind. Paper quality's good, the art is fantastic, and the story's good. That's really all I ask for in a comic book, and I didn't feel cheated for my $4. I thought it was worth it. I'm enjoying the series. I'm enjoying the fact that there's a lot of action instead of a lot of standing around talking about his feelings for Catwoman and all that nonsense Tom King shoved down our throats in his weirdo therapy journal that somehow got published by DC with the Batman label on it. If you are looking for some high-octane Batman, this is it. It's got some detective work. It's got a lot of action. It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying this. So high recommendation. The regular Batman series, now that King's off the book, has been fantastic as well. So I'm excited as a Batman fan to actually have good Bat books. And this is definitely one of them. I cannot believe that the numbers on this book sales are so low. So if you get a chance and you're looking for a good Batman story, definitely check this out. It's a lot of fun. But that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 5, written by Warren Ellis, pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Kevin Nolan and Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. It's an okay cover, but it doesn't really tell you anything about what's going on, and there's a lot of pink on here. It's okay. Associate editor was Andrew Marino, editor Marie Javins. Alright, so this is a 12-part series, but this issue is real interesting. Commissioner Gordon has Batman meet him at Arkham Asylum, and Batman is escorted by Jeremiah Arkham to meet with Commissioner Gordon, where they see one of the attack victims, and we learn a little bit about a group called the Scorn Gang and how they're involved in this, and we meet that weirdo from issue 1 and 2, and that guy apparently has some information, but things go incredibly sideways real fast, and Batman and Gordon have to fight it out with a couple of Scorn Gang thugs, the Scorn Army, and it's pretty crazy. There's a really cool fight scene with Batman in here. They do enforce that whole no killing crap where he's stopping Gordon from killing someone, and I thought that was a little unrealistic because Gordon can't really fight like Batman can, so he might actually have to kill somebody. But it leaves off on a pretty cool cliffhanger. I'm real intrigued to see where this story goes because this is really action-packed. There's a lot going on, very complicated storyline, and a lot of ins and outs, but there's good action sequences within that story. So I feel very satisfied on many levels with this book, and it continues to be fun. The art is solid, the story is pretty interesting and pretty solid, so I'm glad that I picked it up and stuck with it. I'm intrigued to see what role Jeremiah Arkham plays in all this, if any, and what else is going on. Plus there's some really good quips between Batman and Commissioner Gordon, so that was really cool to see. If you're looking for a good Batman story that's got a lot of like detective type stuff, this is probably going to be for you, but it's still got a lot of action, so you're not going to get real bored with it. I'm really excited to pick up issue 6 when that finally comes out, but I'm real glad I got this one because there was some really cool scenes in there, and Brian Hitch does a real good job with the action. Colors really pop too, so there's a lot to be said for everybody on this team. They've all done a really, really good job. So I'm going to recommend this. This continues to be a really solid series, and I'm hoping that the payoff is at least as good. It's got a lot of potential to be something I'll pick up in trade paperback. And this looks like it was probably intended to be in a collected edition of some kind. But that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 6 of 12. This is from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. Pretty cool, but we still have a lot of weird uses of pink in this series. Associate editor was Andrew Marino, editor Marie Javins. So Batman and Gordon have to get out of Arkham Asylum, and we have some really cool fight scenes, but they kind of cheap out on the fight scene at the end, and they just jump ahead to another situation, and it's just kind of implied that awesome things happen, which I felt a little cheated on, but the other fight scenes were pretty cool. So there's another murder that Batman has to solve that seems to be related to what's going on with this gang, and they still have to figure out what is the gang's goal. Batman doesn't seem to think that this has been going on only as long as they've known about. They think there was a series of wins before this that made them overconfident, and he might be right, and it's starting to look like these people have a lot more influence than anything else, and who's behind it we still don't know. But the art is really solid, the story's good. It's probably going to be a little bit better in trade paperback, but it's definitely a solid story with a lot of action, which I like. Some of the action probably is to pad the book a little bit to drag it out to 12 issues, but I'm okay with it because it's really well done art and I really like it. I'm having a great time reading this series. Warren Ellis should be writing one of the regular Bat books, because if he could do this good work in a maxi-series, he should definitely be on one of the regular books. So I won't mind seeing that, maybe put him on Detective or something. I'm not sure how Detective's going, I'm a little behind on that one, but I really like this book. If you're looking for a fun Batman book to get into, this one's only 12 issues long and only half the series is out. You'll definitely need to read it from the beginning in order to understand what's going on, because it is a pretty complicated story, even though there is a lot of action in the book. But I think it's worth it. So far I've been really enjoying the series. So this is a solid issue, but again, you probably want to pick it up from the beginning instead of jumping in here. I think you'd lose quite a bit of the story, but that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you want to help the channel in other ways, links are in the description and on the About page. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Batman's Grave issue 7. This is part of a 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings. The cover I have is by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. It's actually a pretty cool cover, but doesn't really apply to this issue. This would have been better when he was doing the fight at Arkham. Batman and Gordon are trying to get a lead on who killed the head of the CSI unit for Gotham City, and he's trying to establish what's going on, and apparently this was done by a pro because all the security stuff was disabled and that guy was paranoid, so everything was set up really, really well, and it would have taken an expert. Batman also loses a very valuable piece of equipment in this one, which really upsets him and makes him a little more determined. Thankfully, he's gotten a couple of ideas of his own, and before long, him and Alfred have come up with a name, and Colonel Sulphur is the guy's this moniker. And he is a very, very dangerous man, and he is out to kill another member of the GCPD. Somebody is sending dangerous messages to the GCPD, and the attack on Arkham may not have just been an attack on Batman or on Arkham. It may have been a red herring, and so would the crazy guy that Batman captured in issue 2. It looks like there's some dangerous stuff afoot, and Batman might be up against a group of very trained assassins. We are left with an interesting ending that looks like issue 8 is going to be pretty fun. Overall, this was a solid issue. This actually really moved the plot along. There's some really good action and some nice twists and turns. There is a fair amount of talking about halfway through the book, but don't let that ruin it for you because it's very plot driven and it definitely moves the story along quite well and really sets up next issue. And we learned quite a bit in this one. This is a very pivotal issue. Not good standalone, obviously, but this series has been really, really solid so far. So I'm really enjoying it and I'm looking forward to reading issue 8. So if you get a chance to check it out, definitely do so. This series has been very, very fun. But that's just my take. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 8. This is a 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. This cover is actually pretty cool, and it kind of relates to the issue itself, which is nice. The oranges definitely are much more vibrant than the pinks were in the first few issues, so I think this cover actually does a lot more. The associate editor was Andrew Marino, edited by Marie Javins. So Batman is interrogating Colonel Sulphur. He gets some very important information and then goes out to confront the person that may be behind all of this. There's a really massive explosion which is devastating. There's a really cool sequence where Batman confronts this guy. Thanks to Batman's gadgets, he is able to extract some DNA, and the GCPD handle Colonel Sulphur in the way that Gotham City would. And Batman has to release these flying drone things that Alfred hilariously calls bat hounds, and yeah, they go there with a really funny joke. Now, there is a death in this issue. I don't know if this is going to stay in continuity, but it is a character that's been around the Batverse for a while, so I don't know if they're actually going to follow through with that or not. But the ending of this issue is really interesting. It's got a cool twist, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. So another solid issue, lots of really cool plot points, big explosion, lots of stuff happens in this one, so absolutely I'm going to recommend this. Not a good standalone issue though. You won't have any idea what's going on, but if you're planning on reading this series, this issue is awesome. This series has been fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to reading issue 9. So that being said, this is a definite recommendation. So far this series is awesome. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave issue 9. This is the 12-part miniseries from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. It's a cool cover, but that scene does not happen, but it is a good cover. Associate editor Andrew Marino, editor Marie Javins. Now Batman has taken over as head of Arkham until a new warden can be installed, and as such he decides to put everybody down for nappy time and drugs them all for 24 hours so he can think. Meanwhile, the Scorn army decides to go after Batman. Thankfully, one of the Bat Hounds, which is the robot drones that he's got, manages to intercept some of the collateral damage, but Batman takes a real beating in the process. It's a great sequence when he goes after this army member, and Batman has an idea of what to do now, thanks to Alfred, but we're left with another cliffhanger ending. This was a great issue. Scorn is is turning out to be a pretty interesting villain, even though we've only seen him once. So the story is very, very solid. This was a great installment. There is a lot of action in here, but the storyline's not going to make a lot of sense without having read the other issues. So I would definitely recommend this. I think it's a fun series, but as a standalone issue, probably not going to make a whole lot of sense. Still a great installment, and the art is really solid. I like Hitch's art, although there is one panel on page 6 where they forgot to draw Batman's face. They forgot to draw in the face part of the costume. The costume is there as if he's talking to Gordon, because he is, but there's no face there, and it's creepy and weird, and I don't like it. All in all, this was a great issue. So much happens in here that if I tell you too much, it'll ruin a lot of what goes on in the storyline. A solid recommendation on this book. Really fun installment. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 10. This is a 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics, written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. It's an interesting cover concept that will get you to buy the book because you need to know what happened there. Well, it doesn't actually happen in the book, so it really doesn't matter. It's just a pretty solid cover, though. Edited by Marie Javins, associate editor Andrew Marino. Batman's getting a little frustrated because he's trying to figure out how to stop the Scorn army, particularly Scorn. And he actually has a long shower to think about it, and we have to watch that for like 4 pages. But he also passes out in the shower because we get to see a little bit more of the human side of Batman. Meanwhile, the Scorn army is attacking Gotham. They're very organized. They have uniforms, and Batman's trying to figure out how to stop them. He finally comes up with a solution, but at great cost. And Scorn sends Mr. Stirk to go after Bruce Wayne, but Bruce isn't there because he's out fighting crime, but Alfred's home, and the guy goes after Alfred, and Alfred has one of the most hilarious scenes. It was great. And him and Batman have a long talk about firearms, which was really funny and realistic at the same time, very down to earth, really well reasoned on Alfred's part. The cliffhanger ending is pretty good if you've been following the book. If you just jumped in even halfway, you're gonna really not understand what the point is, but it's actually a really, really solid move on Batman's part and a really bold gambit. We'll see how it plays out next issue, but this was a great installment, and the banter between Batman and Alfred was amazing. Warren Ellis writes Alfred like no one else, except maybe Chuck Dixon. Alfred actually has personality, he has reasons for what he does, and he's a really likable character in this entire series. He's more than just a background character. He's part of Batman's core identity. He raised Bruce for the most part, and he's taught him a lot of skills. He's there to fix him up. He really is Batman's surrogate father. It's nice to see that interaction between Bruce Wayne and Alfred because you actually get a little bit more of a human take on them. This is a very adult title for sure, but it's great, and I'm really, really enjoying this series. I would absolutely love to see Warren Ellis do a Batman book like this through Black Label as an ongoing or a group of miniseries, because I think that would be very, very fun. So solid recommendation all around. This was a great story, but not a good standalone. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you in the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at The Batman's Grave, issue 11. This is a 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics. Written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starkings, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair, associate editor Andrew Marino, edited by Marie Javins. I like the cover, it's dynamic, but that scene doesn't even happen in here at all. So the Gotham City Police Department headquarters is attacked by the Scorn army, and the cops are in a nasty firefight. Batman shows shows up, thankfully, to help out, and it's a nasty, nasty fight. Batman takes some serious injuries, and that makes him kind of rethink his tactics. So he has a long talk with Alfred, which is really good. That conversation actually relates to what happened last issue, and it does have kind of a father-son moment to it. Meanwhile, the GCPD releases the name of Scorn to try and push him out into the open and to make more mistakes, and we are left with a cliffhanger ending that is going to wrap up the series next issue. This was a really good series. I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to reading the final issue, and it's very well paced. There's a lot of action. There's a lot going on. It's got a really good story. I'll probably buy this in trade paperback. I do like the art, even though it looks like at times the cityscape is probably photos that have been doctored to look like the backgrounds. So a little laziness there, but I do like the art overall. It is pretty solid. The storyline's really good, so I'm gonna recommend this. As a single issue, it's not going to make a lot of sense because there's been 10 other issues that are related to this, but as an installment in a miniseries, it is really, really good. So if you get a chance to pick it up, I would absolutely do so, but you'll have to have it as part of the entire story. As a standalone, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever, even with all the fun action parts. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, links to my Patreon, Streamlabs, and Teespring store are in the description. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.
We are about to embark upon a series of strange and exciting, dangerous adventures. Adventures that will lead us to all parts of the world.
Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman's Grave, issue 12. This is the final issue of the 12-part maxi-series from DC Comics. Written by Warren Ellis, art by Brian Hitch, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Richard Starking, cover by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair, associate editor Andrew Marino, edited by Marie Javins. Cover's okay. Like some of the others, it's just kind of a pin-up. It doesn't really sell you on the book, but it gives you a vague idea that this is the final issue. So Scorn is facing down with Batman in the final showdown, and they both like to use explosives in this, and Batman gets shot at a couple times. There's a big knockdown drag out with exploding daggers. Their costumes start getting destroyed pretty quickly, especially Scorn's, and without giving too much away, he is taken out of the equation, and just when Batman's about to leave, he gets attacked by one last loyalist, but he's in tough shape, and then it just sort of ends. It's sort of implied that he might be dead. He did take pretty brutal beating, but it's unclear. It just sort of ends. It's a very wishy-washy ending. It was a lazy ending is the worst part. It was a good series up until that last page because there's no real resolution. The ending is incredibly ambiguous and I thought it was lazy. It comes off as rushed and it's probably due to the semi-controversy that Warren Ellis had around the time that he would have been writing this. And I think that is incredibly poor form if that's the case. So I was really disappointed with the very end of it. It was good up until that last couple of pages. If they had kind of given us some sort of resolution as to what actually happened, that's fine, but they didn't want to do that, I guess. So we're left with a little bit of a mystery as to how that's supposed to be interpreted, if we're supposed to interpret it one way or another at all. So although I did like this maxi series, it had a few flaws and the ending was definitely one of them. The very ending. Most of this issue was solid. The art's good. I didn't have any problems with that. Just the very, very last couple of pages. So I have trouble recommending it on that front because that is one of my biggest pet peeves. So if you can find this very cheaply in trade paperback, I would say pick it up, or if you can find the issues cheap, I would say get it then. But beyond that, the ending, the very last ending was a little lazy and I didn't care for that. That'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, you can always share the video around on your social media, or if you want to get some cool merchandise from the Teespring store, or throw a couple of bucks through Streamlabs, or support me monthly through Patreon and get exclusive videos, you can always do that. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.